Throughout the event today, we'll be able to see your chat. So I would say go ahead and chat. This is most fun. We have such a great operational crew here. When I was looking at the list coming into this, it was really cool to see just like the prowess of the operators here who are curious and excited to learn about GoodDay MCP. But I also think just like in the middle of a really cool operational transformation and just learning from every direction. And that's the exact purpose of this. It's I tell our team internally here, we're like 60 to 90 days from day zero in this like totally new way of operating. And so it's just very, very early. When we get a decade from today and we're looking back, this is going to look like day zero. So really appreciate everybody leaning in with us. A lot of this stuff is cutting edge, but you know, Dave and I have been operating and building brands now for almost 15 years, which makes me feel old. But holy cow, the last 90 days has been really amazing when I put myself in the shoes of brands trying to find leverage. Like just a really, really visceral moment in time where like true leverage is at your fingertips and you just need to lean into the new technology that's here. And so a big piece of today is really framing out like some of the product that we're going to be releasing here in the next month, but also just showing you explicit examples of like what is getting Dave and I like staying up late at night, talking to each other at midnight, building Claude skills and being crazy. And so we'll do our best to like get you as much insight as we can today. But this is always most fun if you keep the chat live, and we'll answer your questions along the way. Okay, gonna share my screen and get going. Um, I'm gonna start today with a bit of just like vision for what we're creating here. And again, a lot of what's happened is that we're now starting to bring all of the context and power of data that lives inside of a systems like an ERP Lite, like GoodDay, and we're now bringing that into these AI platforms where you, as a brand operator, can get a ton of leverage and frankly build out all sorts of different interesting ways of operating that are unique to you, but leveraging the power of our data. And so that'll be a big piece of what we're going to show you today. We're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes here giving you a little bit of the GoodDay pitch. And then we'll get right into the fun. Kyle Hency, co-founder, CEO of GoodDay. Dave and I co-founded GoodDay. We started this just over 3 years ago. Former Chubbies operators. I was former CEO at Chubbies. Also operated at Solo Brands, and we're co-founders together at Loop Returns. So have spent really all of our professional career building in the Shopify ecosystem, building our own brand, building some technology in Loop, and now coming through a second wave of building technology at GoodDay, and really excited to show you a lot of what we're doing today. Go ahead, Dave. You want to do an intro?
Yeah, sure. Dave, like Kyle mentioned, co-founder here previously with Loop, and I was CFO and eventually president at Chubbies with Kyle. Before that, CPA at PwC. Pretty much all my clients even were inventory, retail, manufacturing type businesses, and so really have been at running these parallel paths of supply chain, inventory, operational accounting, as well as the actual kind of just general operations of these businesses since basically the start of my career. And so fun to see those two things really come to fruition here with GoodDay. And it's a lot of what kind of gets me up in the morning each day building this product is really building it for people who I've sat in your seat before.
I'm gonna do a little bit of storytelling just to frame this like the entirety of this opportunity. I'm gonna start by just saying like the old way we all operated, and because I haven't operated Chubbies for over 3 years, this is my entire history of operating Chubbies worked like this, right? So I would wake up in the morning, ask myself, do we have the right inventory? Can we fulfill that wholesale sales order? I would look in Shopify, I would look in NetSuite, I would pull CSVs from here, I would pull CSVs from there. I would do some sort of crazy set of VLOOKUPs, do all sorts of manual calculations. And through that workload, I would get to some answer. And in general, I would do that workflow, call it one time a week because it was so painful. The idea of continuously doing it or doing it every day was not in the cards. Um, and ultimately, in this case, this kind of manual multi-step process, the operators of the past that were great could handle all of these things in order, nail it every week on time, and get great insights from this, and then bring those insights into value in their organization, right? But at the end of the day, this took 45 minutes and this did not feel good. This was kind of a wild exercise to get to some insights and some action. Um, the cost of doing business, this is tailing off of a case study we did with the normal brand who we took off of NetSuite. In this world, and in their case, this was purely taking them off of a legacy ERP and putting them in GoodDay. Time is literally money. We're making their world a lot more simple. They're in better systems that just work. We're saving them 30 days a year, 50K annually, and $1 million of impact to their revenue. Like this is just the translation of getting a really great unified operating system in place, getting off of legacy systems, but having a really great data foundation. This is the value of that. This isn't even dialing it up with all of the tools that have just arrived, right? So let me start to talk to you about GoodDay MCP. Man, we are really fired up about this because we now have over 50 brands. So we've done all the hard work to fully cleanse all of their data. They have a trustworthy data layer that is now the foundation of their whole business. And now because that data, they've done the work to trust that data, now they can say, okay, with GoodDay's MCP, now that it's connected to Claude, when I ask that thing questions, I feel pretty darn good about the answers that are coming out of it. Now, like any system anywhere, AI is no different. If you put bad data in, you're going to get bad answers out, right? So in this case, you're asking things like, how much inventory do I have? What should I reorder? What are my margins by channel? These are all things that all of that data lives in the systems of record inside of GoodDay and is proprietary data to GoodDay. Now, ultimately, as former brand operators, this is your data. And we're doing everything in our power to put it at your fingertips for you to get value out of it. That's where GoodDay MCP comes into place, right? So now we're connecting that data into Claude. You're going to be able to query it for broad questions about your business. And over time, and we'll start to talk about this via Claude Skills. Dave, myself, and the rest of our operating team here at GoodDay, which by the way is about 40% former brand operators, a pretty big number. We're purposefully hiring more brand operators. We'll be able to hand you Claude Skills that you can customize and apply to your business. So in addition to teaching you operationally, we'll also be able to actually hand you capabilities. But the way you should be thinking about this is you're going to be able to really supercharge your likely lean operations team and get a lot more out of that team. Instant accurate answers, much better recommendations. Idea to action inside of GoodDay is compressed wildly in this new environment. And you'll see that in the demos that we do today. A big piece of why Dave and I are so excited about this and why we keep hiring other brand operators inside of GoodDay is that we really, really foundationally believe, and we even see this in the work that we've done with GoodDay MCP. If you have not built one of these brands, it's really hard to imagine you getting this right. It's really hard for you to imagine you even understanding what questions to ask. You need to have, 52 weeks in a row done the same manual thing to understand the power of making that really seamless and nice and easy for a brand. And we've done that, right? As I shared already, we're bringing a lot of our best practices from the past. One of the coolest parts about building the GoodDay community is over time, we want the community to continue to feed the community more and more and more. But ultimately, this entire exercise is about getting you accurate data with actually practical applications of AI. And if I was going to be critical, I want to project this on Dave. If I was going to be critical of all the AI hype over the last year, it has not felt very practical. It's felt very pie in the sky. I really, really, really do in my bones feel like that has changed in the last 60 to 90 days. I can really see the practical elements of this coming through. And so I've completely shifted the way I talk to brands about this. Pretty much, I mean, if you're not in cloud, you need to be. You need to be understanding how this is working, right? All right. Want to talk about the buckets of value that GoodDay in the types of questions you can query with GoodDay. Where is my inventory? What stock do I have where? What are my margins by SKU, by category, etc.? How much should I be thinking about selling in some of these products in the future? what specifically, if I get an insight inside of Claude, how can I impact POs and SOs, which I'll show you in the demo today. We have an entire analytical suite that we're building out that will even supercharge this more. Imagine querying a full-on analytics layer that you've built out inside of GoodDay. And then, of course, GoodDay itself is very, very inventory focused. So we have a big vision for how to help you with replenishment. So these are really big areas of operational opportunity for us and for you as a brand. GoodDay MCP is the first piece that's really going to unlock that in a seamless way for you. Do just want to acknowledge, and then I'll get off of my marketing soapbox here. MCP is just the first thing. We're so excited about bringing this to our operators because the leverage is instant. Like I shared, we have Claude skills that we're developing as a team that we're just going to expose to our existing merchants. So if you want a roster of, call it 10 to 20 different operational skills that took us a decade to learn, we'll begin to share those. And then, of course, Dave and I in the background are working on a really, really powerful operating agent that will work with you inside your business and actually just do work with you and for you. And so this is how we're imagining this rolling out. It feels like the GoodDay MCP is the first time, at least in GoodDay, where we're really marrying up the power of our proprietary data with actual actions that actually will automate large pieces of your business. All right. Dave, anything you would add? You're leading product. This is your world right here.
No, I think we're pretty excited because what we see with the MCP is like we can take advantage of our data model that's built to mirror the inventory lifecycle as inventory really works and moves through the world, which is like, things are split, things are joined back together, stuff moves every which direction and not in a linear kind of model. And so we really think we have a lot of advantages in how we've built GoodDay from the start. And we can really see those start to shine here with the MCP and starting to layer on this early skills library that so far we've just been building out in prototypes. We'll show you a little bit today, but we're excited to see what people do with it because inherently those will be really flexible. And we'll see what is catching fire there and be able to rapidly iterate and get those embedded more deeply into the product.
Nice. I want to spend just a minute making sure. Hey, Dave, can you confirm for me? Are you looking at my Claude setup here?
Yeah, seeing it.
All right, cool. So just want to show folks, this is Claude desktop. This is how I work. N of one there. Not recommending that, but this is what I'm doing. I want to just give you some context on what GoodDay MCP is, and then also just show you visually how it interacts with Claude, right? So think of MCP as the way that we expose operational context, business objects, and actions from GoodDay into your Claude. And we'll do this through the MCP, which is just Model Context Protocol. So an agent can then query statuses, reasons over exceptions, trigger workflows, actually trigger actions back inside GoodDay. And we'll show you a bunch of that today. But just wanted to be clear that there's kind of like two big elements here. This is your window to query all of the data. I'll show you here in a second. We have about 98 different resources and tool sets that we expose to GoodDay MCP. So I have an insight. I have a question about my inventory position. I learned something about my inventory position. Now create a PO, change a sales order, edit XYZ, etc. That whole chain you can do from Claude, and will find its way back into GoodDay in like really, really cool kind of seamless ways. All right, I'm going to show you quickly here when I go into settings. So when you're a GoodDay customer, right? You will come down in here and we'll have GoodDay MCP. We'll connect this with you. It will connect to your specific Shopify app. That is your GoodDay Shopify app. And then you'll click in here and hit configure. And this is where you can see all 98 different data points, resources, toolkits, etc. And then in here, you can decide whether you want to approve everything, which is what I do, always allow. Or if you want to have like a set of gates that require approval and require you as the human inside of Claude to think about these things. But I just wanted to show you how all this works. We'll share API keys, et cetera, during implementation to be able to roll this out for you. All right. That's that piece. Anything else you'd add there, Dave?
Yeah, like a perfect example of that is if you want it to double check before it creates a new PO with you instead of just creating a draft. Still everything at this point through here creates drafts first, but just kind of quick example. Keep in mind, right, like the MCP is only as good as the APIs, is only as good as the data model, the data warehouse that it's all sitting upon. That's where we're really investing a ton of time right now is adding really intricate scoping to the APIs. We've built out a really great data warehouse that it runs off of so it can run faster and get more intelligent results served back to you better with a little bit more context from the business layered on. And so that MCP layer is thin and it's a thin kind of translation layer for those different resources inside of GoodDay is the best way to think about it for people who aren't as familiar with what MCP means and does.
All right, I'm going to start to go through. I see some questions starting to flow through. Dave, if you want to look through the chat and see if there's any you can handle async. Well, I'm going to go through one example here and then we'll have a pause and answer any questions. All right. So this is a pretty simple query. Again, there's 98 different pieces of data and actions that are sitting inside of GoodDay's MCP. This is just saying, show me my inventory. I have these 3 different SKUs. I want to know the inventory, more context about the inventory. I left this purposefully open-ended. It's an LLM, so it'll be different each time. It's not going to be the exact same thing. But you can see it went out. It called GoodDay's MCP and went through. And what you see here, you start to see the power of the data coming through, right? So for any given SKU in GoodDay structure, you're organized at the physical location level. You're also organized at the virtual channel level. But here's also where you see the power of having much, much more complex inventory statuses. Very simply, you can see, holy cow, there's another 4,250 units of those about to arrive. Like, if there's anything I don't need more of across these, it's T124. I have a crap ton of these things coming, right? But now I'm coming down here and I'm like, okay, this is great. This is a lot of context. It's asking down here, a couple of things that stand out. T126 is the tightest, only 18 units available. So I asked an open-ended question and it went above and beyond here, in my opinion, and it said, hey, you actually have a pretty tight inventory position. And a part of this is we've tuned this up. It understands what the context of what these data points are in the context of GoodDay itself, right? And so the other thing I would call out is relativity to Shopify. Remember, GoodDay, like Shopify's data is a subset of GoodDay's entire operating data set. We capture all of the orders going through Shopify. We also capture all of the off Shopify orders. So if you're going to query some one place to understand all orders, all inventory, all POs, all sales orders, et cetera, and all COGS, GoodDay would be the one place you would go, just from a pure like access to the underlying data, right? So now I'm going to say, okay, it looks like T126 is the tightest position. Let's go ahead and create more of that, right? So I need another 1,000 units of T126. Can you create a PO for this warehouse? All right. So again, querying the MCP, it's looking up these items. Found T126. Let me create the draft PO. All right, so took it all the way through. So it says, all right, PO is in draft status. I'm going to pull that up over here in the background. Give me one sec. Actually, let's go ahead and add a vendor. So it realized that in that PO, it didn't actually have a vendor and asked me a follow-up question. Awesome. So PO number 22, 1,000 units, included the payment terms for that vendor. Let me
Yeah,
just
it's
pull them
pulling
up.
in, right? The benefit of that, of how this is working is it's, sitting on top of a lot of the foundations and the primitives we've already built, right? So in a standard PO, you can go through and do this in the UI. You can pull in a company and its information, its payment terms, and all that stuff by default. Um, but hopefully this is trying to give you another place and an even quicker way of doing that than, the classic kind of point and click in the UI.
And so in this case, right, we were just talking about one SKU, but now imagine you've done some work with Claude and you isolated, you needed to create new PO, you needed to create a PO with 50 different SKUs on it. You would just say from Claude, go ahead and create a new PO with all 50 of those SKUs. And the exercise of adding them manually inside of this PO and the UI would completely go away, right? So you're getting all the leverage of the Rails and infrastructure and the system of record from GoodDay, but the way that you're interacting and getting data in and out is completely evolving in this environment.
Um, Hence, if you want, I
Yeah,
could
go ahead.
take over and
Yeah,
show
yeah,
some
go
of
ahead.
the longer running stuff for a minute.
Yeah, go. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. All right. So that's the chat. Honestly, you can use that on your phone. As we've been testing this and messing around with it, it's been pretty compelling because you're seeing you're able to pull up your phone and ask, are there uncommitted units for such and such customer? Is there any inventory available in the e-commerce? All these types of kind of one-off questions, ad hoc inquiries that you typically would go to another coworker for, you can now just come to Claude because you can ask those. You don't need to know exactly where to navigate in GoodDay or anywhere or any other place for that matter. And so we're pretty excited about that. I'm going to show a couple things here that we've been messing around with that are like longer running jobs. So Kyle was showing you chat interface with Claude. This is Cowork. So think of Cowork as a like business user friendly version of Claude Code. So it's still working in a local folder. Which is really similar. So basically all this work is being saved locally into markdown files and CSV files and things like that in a local folder. But it's meant to have long running programs, like so running through 6, 7, 8, 10 steps. So what we've built here is we've actually built, Kyle showed you earlier, we've actually built a skill that will be part of the open sourced skill library that we put out there to everyone. And I've built a SOP in a Word doc and then iterated and iterated with Claude Cowork to turn it into a skill in here. And so, this gives an overview of what that skill does. It has reference files, including an email template, which I'll show you here in a minute, and different configurations, what items to ignore, what items to look at. Safety stock is the reason we started with this one is it's something that we feel really passionate about, but that not enough people take advantage of. Safety stock prevents back orders, or at least highly mitigates them, right? So you can set units aside, keep back orders from happening because the warehouse goes to a bin and finds no units in the bin when they're expecting to see something there that they could put into their pick. It's a pretty common thing, happens at every warehouse. It's just a natural part of running these businesses. But up until now, a safety stock program has been pretty onerous to manage because the best iteration of it is you set aside units to keep them from going into available in Shopify and selling. Let's say you set aside 5 units per SKU. The problem is if you don't proactively manage that, well, you get down to 0, and those units now stay in this long tail, like this crazy long tail of SKUs that just have onesie twosie units sitting there that you're not turning back into cash. They're just sitting there in inventory. And so with the safety stock program, you can now have this scheduled, have this run daily or weekly or multiple times per day. And it's going to be able to tell you where are your SKUs. Like what we've programmed in here for this skill is like what SKUs have units below 10 in available, but greater than 0 in safety stock. So it's essentially what I'm kicking off is this process in the background to go ahead and run that. I'm gonna go show a couple other examples here while it runs, but you can see it creating all the steps. And so I'll run through that in a second here when we jump back. But in the meantime, I'm gonna jump over to this other one. This is our supply chain health check. So again, taking advantage of the GoodDay data model and operating context. What I asked here was I said, hey, run, this would be another long running job. Check for a bunch of things. This could be programmed in as a skill as well. In fact, it will be. But it runs this health check and says, hey, here's all the POs that I scanned, the open blocks, the units, critical findings. We have every single block across 19 of those POs has no ETA date set. So your e-commerce team, your customer support team, the warehouse team, no one's going to know when those units are arriving. And so you have like zero visibility into here. It's getting really, promise I didn't tee it up for this. It's naturally kind of interpreting that, hey, that is a bad thing based upon the context that we've built in here. And so it gives you by vendor all of your different POs, how long it's been open, the receipt status, partially received versus none. And it tells you kind of at the end here, hey, you need to set ETAs on each of these blocks, need to prioritize the oldest unreceived POs that are overdue and you haven't booked a receipt on yet to get that inventory in the system. And then you have some missing shipments that you need to link. In particular, look at PO number 18, 4,000 units, and you need to get an ETA and a shipment linked to that ASAP. I'm going to go back over here to that safety stock program that hopefully is done running. Let's see here. I'm going to jump down to the bottom. So let's see what popped out. Oh, there you go. I had to allow for this. Dang it. Classic Claude. So you'll see that every once in a while when you're playing around with these things where you have to like re-allow permissions. When I had to re-download Claude like right before the demo started, of course, because it crashed on me. There's other like examples where you can do really long running jobs. I'll show you another one here in the chat. So it's not like you can't run a really complex prompt. So this is saying, hey, look where inventory is imbalanced in the Austin warehouse between channels. And so it spits out a freaking laundry list, including a formatting here of all of the different results by SKU. That hopefully loads here in a second. This we've loaded in all of our brand guide and styling so that you can have like some actually digestible reports, but it's giving you like, hey, what's your inventory position? 33 SKUs with a deficit in wholesale. How many can you balance out from ecom? How many are unable to fully balance and across how many customers? And then it gives you kind of a look at the biggest demand drivers and what their states are. And then you can see, hey, if you actually create transfers off of this, which SKUs are going to be fully covered, and then which SKUs are you still short and you probably need to issue a PO, and you can start to trigger that action next. So let's jump back over here. Hopefully it's not getting held up by permissions again. All right, awesome. So let's walk through what happened here. You can see all the tool skills. So the really cool part of this is you can see the thinking that it's doing. You can see how it's using the GoodDay MCP. What are the files and tools that it's calling? You can see that it created an email draft in Gmail here. And so this is your morning safety stock analysis for April 8th. You can schedule this to go out, run at 8 a.m. every morning. And so you have some high risk SKUs where it's saying, hey, you have 0 available. You have a bunch of reserves, and you have no effective days of supply. So we're putting that in the high risk category because this is what I wrote up in the SOP that we loaded in here. Second group here is, hey, there's some still available, so lower risk, but we're still below that availability threshold, so we need to go count those and try and release more from reserved. Um, it highlights a couple things. There's other stuff in the SOP, other context in the SOP where you can ignore certain SKUs or channels. And then what it did was it said, hey, it drafted. Evan from our team is my nominated warehouse 3PL relationship manager. And so it created the Gmail draft, which I'll pull up here from the other screen. Yep. So it created this Gmail draft to Evan, and I, just asked it to format in HTML these tables. Did pretty well and says, hey, it's going to send this off to Evan by 2 p.m. Send me back your counts. So I'll go ahead and send that off. And what else did it do here? It also went ahead and preparatorily created that transfer with all of the analysis from up here filled in. So it's preparatorily drafting up the transfer, assuming that you're going to transfer these units over from reserve to available. You can create floors so that, you net 3 units off of all these, for example, to retain safety stock if you want. Any of that is possible in here. We've had multiple iterations of this skill that we've been playing with. And so in the background, we'll go through that process. I'll hand it back off to Kyle, but let's go ahead and open this link so that y'all can see this transfer just created in the GoodDay UI with all those line items and notes applied. So the draft transfer is in there. It's going from reserved state to on-hand state. It has the notes in here, and you're kind of off to the races, waiting for your warehouse to get back to you with count results.
Yeah. Before I jump into it, I think it's worth by the way, people are sending in really great questions. If you're not following in the chat, you should definitely read through the chat because some of these are like foundational questions to be able to get up and running and start to be start to be powerful in Claude. The the interoperability of MCP in Claude is wild. Like, use GoodDay's data to ask this insane brain really hard questions, get immediate answers, make awesome decisions based off of said answers, immediately action those in GoodDay, and or send and fully draft an email out to a third party. Then I don't want to mess up your punchline, Dave, but just like figure out what to do with that email when it comes back. Like that, just like if you tried to encapsulate that in one monolithic piece of software, it would take you forever to try to do that well. So I really do think this is like a moment where the power is being put in the brand's hands, and that end-to-end skill for me, like, really, man, you could just imagine running 10 or 20 of those things every single day. And it totally changes your behavior. When I think about things like inventory recon, safety stock emails into the warehouse, like we would do these things once a week or every 2 weeks because it was so hard to do the analysis. So now, like, this is like this big kind of esoteric argument around AI. It's like, are you going to use the software more or less? I was like, I don't know. So far, I'm saying I would just imagine already using this way more. Like, I would go from doing this once a week to 7 times a week. And I would figure out where the efficiency is on there. I'm sure there's some diminishing frontier that you have to back off of, but man, directionally, I would be using this stuff a lot more, not a lot less, which is really cool as a brand operator to feel and see in the technology. What are you looking at here, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, safety stock is one of those best practices that we recommend a lot of people do. Very few take us up on it because it is taxing. You have to manually go in and run the analysis, tell the warehouse to do their counts, take those counts and actualize them into the transfers and adjustments, and submit those. And so the cool thing here, so Evan, our pseudo warehouse relationship manager, thank you, just responded with the counts. And so the warehouse counted, and there's a few variances in here. One that I'll call out here, right, is this is such a good case for this program because you thought you had 9 Shopify thought you had 9. Shopify would have oversold by 8 units. And if you're seeing good velocity on this SKU, you might you might have 8 back orders and only kind of catch it a few hours later once the warehouse goes through and prints out all their pick slips and actually goes down there and looks to grab those units. They might not find it for a couple hours. And so when in the meantime, it pulled in Evan's results. I just sent this back. I kicked this off. You may have seen that on the screen when I flipped back on to sharing. So it pulled back in the results here, recognized the
So insane.
variances, and it's saying, hey, there are 4 non-zero variances. First, you need to do an adjustment. So we're going to add an adjustment for these and create an adjustment, but leave it in draft. And you got to do that first. And so recommended order of operations, which we built into the SOP, is review and submit the adjustment first, then update the transfer line and submit it. It even tells you why this matters. And so, this is the power, I think, of working closely with a good data model, good APIs, a powerful system, and like a group of operators that can help you craft these SOPs. We're going to continue to be delivering these things over so that you can continue to put more of these types of operations on autopilot. We hope it will create, like Kyle said, a really expanded use of the system and all the capabilities we're adding in.
All right. Well, I was gonna do a wholesale sales order basic demo, and that seems pretty dumb and trivial at this point. And we have because that is way cooler. What they just showed you is insane. um, I do I do want to say that no. So imagine right, like so that is one skill that we created that you can set up to run on a recurring basis, and you saw how the human is in the loop. They need to read it. This is think of skill as one operational capability end to end. You can set it up in Claude so that it runs every day at 9 o'clock. I'll tell you what Claude's really good at: hitting that 9 o'clock deadline every single day, does not miss, right? Because it's programmatic in nature, right? So it's you can rely on it. You're going to go through that same process, um, but man, if you then start to open your mind and say, okay, now what if I had 20 different capabilities and I was just interfacing with some one thing? Like that is an agent. That is GoodDay's operating agent that we're going to be delivering in the back half of this year, right? Like that full end-to-end operational system that does all sorts of crazy stuff for you inside of your business is going to live inside of an agent. Now, there's a lot of great questions that are coming through from folks around like, how is GoodDay going about this? We're going about it twofold. In the near term, like we're going to be releasing this with beta customers, and thank you to all of our existing customers who are on here, like being curious. We're going to be releasing this with you first over the next month, and then we'll be going GA towards the end of May. So it's here, it's now. We're testing it live, and so I would say we have a long list already of our existing customers who are all leaning in, which is cool to see. But we're also going to be developing the background. When we go GA for this, we're going to have 20 skills to give our community and to really like help these brands operate like the big boys, right? Like the big part of this whole exercise is leveling the playing field. Like, well, in the past, only huge brands could afford legacy ERPs. Well, guess what? That's no longer true. GoodDay's here. We have brands that are 5 or 10 employees who are using GoodDay or even smaller, right? Secondarily, we're going to be taking the operational capabilities from these bigger brands and giving it to everyone. Now, that's cool. We don't want to use that as a crutch. And so what I would really strongly recommend to all of our brands and our prospect brands, you need to also be developing your own internal muscle. If you're not testing with Claude, you need to start testing. Don't mess around. Sign up today. If you're not doing it, do it right now. It's a big deal. Secondarily, we're going to be able to give you skills that you can modify the files of to work for your business. I think Matt Pham asked a really good question. It was like, how are you setting those thresholds? That's in the skills file, and you can just literally go into the skills file and change the number to a different number. It is really that easy to update.
Yeah, I actually have it up. Do you want me to show?
Yeah, go ahead and share it. But like, I would just say this is twofold. You need to be experimenting. You need to be getting geared up to get the specific value out of GoodDay, which we'll slick the ramps for. But you also need to be grabbing the steering wheel here and starting to think about how does your team build their own skills. This is such a powerful high leverage experience. So the answer to the question that Matt asked was like, you need to do both, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But go
Yeah,
ahead, Dave.
totally. This is, basically I wrote this up in a Word doc, iterated a few times and converted this. So this is more of a standard SOP that you would deliver to, you know, an ops person would write up and deliver to everyone who's around it, the warehouse manager, the ops analyst, whatever it is, right? This was what was loaded in, and what what I created with Claude as part of that is not just this SOP doc converting into the skill, but then it also comes with a configuration template and even comes with the email template. So that you can change those things. So an example here is for the demo. When I was setting it up, I just went in and edited this configuration file and said, hey, which location are we going to be paying attention to? What is how to define the velocity tiers in terms of sales and fulfillments, how to define what's high risk versus watch and versus low risk, and how those, and you can add like this. I never added this once. It took a note based upon what I told it to learn when I was giving feedback to the skill this morning, and it added this morning. And so you can set up these minimum reserve floors. All this stuff is pretty easy to set up through these markdown docs that are associated that the skill calls and knows to reference. And so that's, I think, is really one of the really powerful things here. You can even see the email stuff here. So yeah, so that's what makes it like highly configurable and editable. This is the stuff that we will be building into agents embedded in GoodDay. So you can have version control. You can see which SOP version ran a particular operation for you yesterday versus today versus 2 weeks ago. And so that's how this is going to kind of start to play out into the system that you'll see is we'll have these same principles that are SOP-based principles, but allow you to edit and modify and improve them over time.
I did. I think there was a question from Matt W about ATP. Here, actually, I'll just post this out. I typed this up and sent it to the wrong group. Sorry. There we go. Matt, I just answered your question around ATP. The beta is not rigged up to our ATP functionality, but because we have available to sell and available to promise, just imagine that as a data point that we will then expose to MCP. Then you can query ATP and you can ask those questions with that context. And so I think you're right that there's quite a bit of like operational. Yeah, there's a lot of thoughtfulness that needs to go into that, so you don't sell a bunch of things you don't have. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, the good thing, right, with an ATP is it's kind of two different reports combined and rolled forward and iteratively comparing to each other. You have your supply side roll forward and you have your demand side roll forward. And so both of those are already built in the data warehouse, thankfully. That's partially what feeds the ATP report that you can get out of GoodDay. And so what we'll start to refine and add in is SOPs and even more context within the MCP to help answer specific questions. I think the other question you asked, Matt, is around committing to specific POs from inbound committed. Because you can allocate and move your allocation data around, you can effectively reserve on a sales order block by sales order block basis those inbound units. That works as kind of the internal reservation system in GoodDay to be able to change allocations around. We do intend to add functionality into inbound committed to actually explicitly commit against inbound POs in the future. That's probably coming later this year. But in the meantime, hopefully that reservation system can suffice, and then that ATP report that will be in there will help you really run that part of the business. Let's
Yeah, I want to
see.
open up for any other questions. I mean, this is kind of the last 5 minutes here. Are there any other questions on this stuff? What's the next step? Can I visually see data since cloud outputs are very text heavy? Um, yes. So got a question here. I'll just read it out. Can I visually see data since cloud outputs are very text heavy? Can I take actions like adding inventory, moving it around warehouses? Can I take any action that I can normally take on good days, ERP? Can I use some intelligence prediction to help take the decisions? Dave, you want to attack those? Or you want me to knock them out?
No, I can take them. So I'll kind of reshare here just to show this visualization again. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the Claude visualization tools are pretty dang good from what we've seen, and honestly, they've made a lot of advancements even just in the last couple of weeks. So this is not, this thing that I showed earlier with this channel imbalance report between e-commerce and wholesale. Like this visualization is based upon the queries and the results and the MCP context that we have built in here. And so we'll be able to do more and more over time. But these visualization tools are kind of, once you account for those things that we're doing behind the scenes, more or less out of the box to you in each Claude. The other piece is we do have
Dave,
a BI tool that's coming soon. And so we're really excited about that. It's going to be paired off of the same data warehouse data that this is running off of, and will allow you to build more kind of like preset reports. We'll be building them out standard at first into GoodDay into the UI.
I just wanted to call out as somebody whose brain doesn't work without visuals that we also fed this with Good Day's brand guidelines so that it feels like Good Day and you can ingest it more comfortably, etc. So just know that there's a whole layer of that SOP piece where you can actually give it that input.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. And
Actions to move inventory around, that is a core action. The channel balance skill that
yep.
Dave showed you was using that specifically.
Yeah, so this transfer, this could just as easily be a physical, I guess I already loaded that, I think, over here. So this could just as easily, right, be a physical warehouse transfer as well. And one of the other queries and prompts that I had running was recommending physical virtual transfers from e-commerce and then physical transfers from another. I think in the demo that Kyle had but didn't get to fill a wholesale order, you needed to virtually transfer some units and then physically transfer some units from another location, and it handles all of that pretty easily.
Yeah. I think your question, can you take any action that you could normally take in Good Day? In the end, yes. In the beta, no. Because we're rolling out all of that stuff and we're going to roll it out before we get to everything. But absolutely your vision for this is exactly the same as our vision. Um, yeah. And then question, and I think we may have answered this above, are there role-based permissions already built in? Can someone access my Claude to see my data? Can Anthropic see my data? So I would say from a like who sets the approvals, there's organization level settings and then personal settings. And if you're an organization and you want to make everybody require approval, et cetera, you can set that at the organization level. So that's how you would protect yourself from exposing data you didn't want out there. One of the data points that we have in there is COGS, for example. Like there may be, you might not want anybody on your team to see your COGS. Totally up to you and how you want to do it, but you can kind of set those sorts of permissions there. Uh,
On
Go ahead.
scoping, and then all these take an API key, so you can kind of limit who can access via that as well, and to actually be able to access any of this. And then the other note is like API keys, we're adding scopes to them so that you can give specific users really, really specific scopes to be able to limit. Maybe they can only read PO data or only create a draft transfer and read inventory data. Those are some examples we've already gotten requests on as part of this to let users who in the retail stores who want to create a transfer, they don't want to give them the rest of the system. This is going to be a really clean way of taking action there and getting them the access they need.
Yeah. The last question was just, can Anthropic see your data? Yes. So definitely. Now, is it worth it? Oh man, I would go to the mat making the argument it's worth it like 100 times over. And so look, I think you have to make a personal decision there on whether or not you're open or interested in that. But the what is at stake here, the amount of leverage is such a big deal that personally I don't consider this a big deal. But again, that's a personal question. And then Charlie had a question. Would cron job allow for automated allocation of SOs and trigger to WMS if the inventory is available on every 15-minute or hour basis?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could run a scheduled job every hour that surfaces up unallocated SO blocks that have available inventory. Um, I bet you could even preset that to submit it
Yeah.
down to the warehouse, all
But
down to the warehouse. Those
but
actions will be available via the MCP. So yeah.
but just to like tie that whole chain, I think this is a really interesting
Great
question
question.
from Charlie, right? Like before we did this once a week because it's such a pain to run the stinking analysis.
Yeah.
So now you're not running it once a week. You're running it every day. No, Charlie's right. You're running it every hour because inside of the day, getting these orders out matters. And in wholesale, this is revenue. So if you're releasing more revenue, you're making more revenue. And so, yes, like that's a really friggin' big deal where you've now taken an action you used to do once a week and you're contemplating running it every single hour or every 15 minutes. Like, great example of something that would really change your economics around like recognizing and capturing revenue in your wholesale business and your B2B business, right? So I do think that is a really that one in particular strikes me as like you could probably run a financial equation that would make that always make sense to run a lot more. All right. Last, we have room for one question, 3 minutes, and then we'll shut this down. Any other questions? All right, nothing. Okay. Just I said this 6 times. I'm saying it again. If you're not already testing these things in Claude, get in there and test it. A part of this is us partnering with you and getting you the tools you need. A part of this is you assuming the new reality and teaching yourself to build these skills. I would argue that one's probably going to be higher leverage for you. So focus on that one, right? And then 3, this is just the beginning. We are so close to day 0 and so much is coming. So it's really worth leaning in now because what's going to transpire over the next year is a full transformation of the way that brands operate. I'm super confident in this. And GoodDay is we're taking this on ourselves and saying this is our role here. We're going to give you the data, we're going to give you the tools, we're going to give you the education, and we're going to help you through this transformation. It's not straightforward and easy. This just requires a lot of changing the way that you build and think. And you have to do it safely. I think a lot of these questions today were around how to do this safely. I think we're going to have a really, really big role in helping people lean into this and do it safely. And that's a big deal, right? All right. Thank you, everybody, for the time. I appreciate all the engagement. This is really fun. A lot more to come.
Thanks, y'all.